Yes. Good morning, folks. Today we have a special guest in our Human Being Text podcast, Khaja. So I have met him in the Hyderabad meetup, and he is really helpful person for everyone. Like whether it is whether someone it is new or like already known person. So Khaja will help everyone. And recently he also started Kubernetes or coffee meetup, and is helping a lot of people to get into the cloud native space. Today we'll have him. I have a couple of questions as well. So we'll discuss this in this podcast. So before that, Kaza, can you please introduce yourself and how you started your career and how is your journey going right now?
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Archunandi, for inviting me to this podcast. I'm really excited about this. So, my name is Khaja Moinuddin Mohammed, and I have about 2 decades of experience in IT in various phases of SDLC. So, I started my career as a functional tester, and then I progressed towards automation, then developer, then DevOps, and yeah, that's how I progressed my career so far into cloud, etc.
Like you have started from the you mentioned you have a decade of experience and other things. Like why you get into DevOps and what are the challenges you have faced in your career and how did you resolve all these things and what is your way of learning things?
Yeah, so getting into DevOps was an accidental thing, I would say. So I was working as an automation test engineer at a certain point in my career, and one of the challenges that we were facing was continuously running these automation tests in a pipeline. So we were having a different team at that point in time, and accidentally they had to leave that. And my manager was kind enough at that point in time in my career to ask me that, hey Kaja, are you interested to take this opportunity? So while a lot of other folks felt that it's not just challenging, but kind of an impossible thing, because nobody at that point in time in our team had experience into any phase of DevOps or any tooling in DevOps. So I took that as a challenge, and it took, of course, a few months for me to get into all those nitty gritty of things. But eventually, I was able to learn those things and was able to pull off an end-to-end DevOps lifecycle that I've created, and that's how I started my career, into DevOps and cloud as well at the same time.
So yeah, really interesting, Kaja. Like from testing point to DevOps engineer, and people will think like, why I should have learned DevOps? I can do a lot of things in testing as well, and testing was also very boring. Sometimes like you have to do the same cycle. So the mindset which have changed you from the testing phase to DevOps, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what is the kind of things you did there in kind of the DevOps pipeline you mentioned, right? So what you did, whether it is CI/CD or like what are the things and what tool you have used? I would like
Yeah.
to know.
Of course, see, I'm a Jenkins guy to start my career with, right? So
Oh,
I'm that old, you can say, right? So when we started things, I was part of a mobile automation testing at that point in time, and bringing that into a DevOps pipeline was very, very challenging because there was not a lot of tooling at that point in time. Even when you talk about Jenkins, it's a the plugin system didn't help a lot at that point in time, right? So we were not having an AML based something like a GitLab or GitHub Actions at that point in time. That was very popular. Of course, they were there, but again, Jenkins was way too popular, and our organization already had Jenkins inbuilt at every phase of SDLC. So for me, getting into that side of things, as I said earlier, it was, yes, it was challenging, and it took a lot of time to learn the nitty gritty of DevOps things. And what I started in the DevOps was that, yeah, obviously building pipelines, creating artifacts out of that, and storing into certain artifactory. and displaying those artifacts into proper user interface at the same time was quite challenging. And of course, observability was also a lot challenging because we had a lot of flaky test cases at that time. So the software tools that we were using, for example, I remember we were using Appium at that point in time, which was not as stable as it is today. So it was a bit of flaky, all those test cases that we used to get, and all those, and we had to build our own device form as well, with all those mobile devices. So we had to build all those device forms. So yeah, so I won't say that it's like some 3 or 4 steps of DevOps. It was an evolution, I would say, that I was able to get involved with.
Got it, got it. And like you're also a Jenkins Gaines. I thought you're a Golang and EVBPF fan, but now I can add you as a Jenkins fan also. Like regarding the question regarding the APM one, so you are using all the managed APM service or like self-hosted APM service?
At that point in time, we never had any managed Appium, right? So we were hosting everything, pretty much everything. We were bundling up. There were tens of Apple devices. So we used to have iPhones, iPads. iWatch was very, very brand new at that point in time. So I'm talking about probably 2012 or 13 when iWatch was launched for the first time, and we had to take our app onto that iWatch as well. So bringing all of these into one room, and we created a device form with physical devices, what I'm saying. And there were not so many of those tools, so we had to bundle together all of this. And yeah, as I said, they were flaky most of the times. So those challenges were always there, right? And on top of that, Jenkins has its own set of problems. Uh, and Yeah, it was always a learning, every time that you thought that, right, so we have created a very stable test suite that can go through an automated Jenkins pipeline. We had a different set of problems, so we had to reconnect the devices, we had to upgrade the drivers, and yeah, lots of other challenges we were having at that time.
Yeah, like when I was thinking about like your career, like when you are started in 2006, like there is no ecosystem just like right now what we have today, right? So I was just thinking yesterday like how we started and all these things. So then the learnings, all the things came from the failure thing. What are the challenges you have faced and other things? So yeah. So coming back to the next question, like as I mentioned, like you are really passionate about Golang and eBPF. So what is the story there, and how you came there, and what is the reason for these two things?
Right. So apart from Golang and eBPF, what I'm also excited about, Achanandi, is WebAssembly as well. Right. So
Okay.
these three are the areas that I would like to focus, and I'm focusing right now. And I'll tell you why. So Go comes very naturally to me because I've been involved with Kubernetes and all the CNCF landscape of projects. Right. So most of them use Golang. So it was sort of a no-brainer for me, and I would say it is quite natural that I incline towards Golang. And also, when I started with Golang, I initially felt it is a little complicated because it is easier. And for us to understand easier things as a human being is becoming more complicated, right? The easier the tools are, it becomes much complicated for us to accept that fact that certain thing is easier, right? So it took a while, but then I started understanding, it's not complex, it's not complicated, it's very straightforward. Golang is quite easy to learn. And then eBPF, it's a interesting thing. So what happened was that a while back I was watching certain video from Liz Rice, and my daughter was sitting beside me, and she was excited about the B in that eBPF, right? So that's how both myself and my daughter started getting involved with eBPF technology. And the very first thing that I knew about eBPF was that after Linux itself, eBPF is the biggest technology in the Linux ecosystem, right? So there has never been an exciting time as much as eBPF today in the Linux space, where actually you can do certain things normally can be done with eBPF today with no side effects, almost no side effects, right? Because everything runs in a sandbox environment. So that's how I got involved with both Go and eBPF. Yeah.
Yeah, so because like you also mentioned about WebAssembly, then what is the purpose of that WebAssembly?
So WebAssembly, yeah, it has its own few purposes. One of the things that I really like about WebAssembly is the size that you get, right? It's almost in KBs and hardly MBs of size of images that you get, right? And then the pace at which it runs is super fast. So something you can think of as something that you can run as serverless, whatever that you are running in serverless can be run with WebAssembly today. And also its feature of composite feature which it provides, like bringing a polyglot of programming languages together, right? So something that you have built in Golang, and now you want to use that in Python. So today probably you have to do a lot of um, you know tooling by yourself, right? You have to cook yourself a lot of things, but whereas WebAssembly provides out of the box. So those are a few features, but what I am really excited about it is a couple of years back there was not a lot of tooling, so you have to do a lot of things manually. But now if you go to the landscape.cncf page, so there is a specific or special tag for WASM itself, right? WebAssembly is
Yes.
also known as WASM. And you will see that the ecosystem is building slowly. And I feel that it's already due for WebAssembly to pick up. And I'm seeing that probably 2026 is when actually it will pick up.
Yeah, so okay, Khaja. Like, one thing is like you started your career with Jenkins and all the DevOps tools and all that tools. When did you actually came in to know about the cloud native space and all these things? So I would like to know more about your cloud native journey as well.
Yeah, s- even when I was doing all of these things, Achanandi, I'm proud to say that I and myself and my friend were one of the very early, not just adopters, but also we have had a few courses on Udemy. So I'm talking about around 2000, probably 13 and 14, when Udemy just was getting popular. So we had our courses published there as well, right? So it's like I always kept exploring things, right? So that is how I got into cloud space also. I would say around 2015 and 16 is the first time that I got an opportunity to look into AWS at that point in time, which was the most popular cloud, right? So before Satya came, Azure wasn't that great, that popular, right? Before Satya Nadella came. So once Satya Nadella came, and I used to go to Microsoft Office here in Hyderabad for various meetups, and there were big banners of Azure. So it was just picking up at that point in time. I'm talking about 2016, 17 point in time, right? So before that, yes, Azure was there, but it was not so very popular in the cloud space. So I used to attend all these various meetups. I used to attend a lot of meetups at that time to understand what are the niche technologies, what is the cutting and bleeding edge technologies that were emerging. So that's how I got into the space of cloud native as well, cloud as well as cloud native.
Really interesting, Kaza. Like from 2016 itself, like you have started attending meetups and other things. So one more question regarding the meetups. Like you have been attending meetups since last 10 years. So what is the shift you are seeing in the last 10 years and now? What is the changes you are seeing and how it is going right now?
So in the past, what I used to see is that meetups were just an extension of certain course, right? Someone was teaching some course and they wanted to get more popular or more visibility. So Meetup was sort of an extension to YouTube at that point in time. Um, and what I see today, meetups happening on meetup.com or even Bright or other platforms, you have Confab, etc. Right? So a lot of these platforms got emerged in the, I would say, last half a decade, right? Which in itself tells that there is a lot of enthusiasm for doing meetups as well as attending meetups. And then these meetups earlier, they used to be just concentrating on very very niche areas, right? Something that are very already popular. um, Something like, for example, let's say go something like a Java, for example, or Spring Boot, right? But now, because of the ecosystem that got evolved thanks to Kubernetes and thanks to Linux, that the ecosystem has expanded horizontally, right? And which brought a lot of tools, and which, for example, let's say a decade back, I would never have thought that someone would have done a meetup group exclusively on, for example, let's say Terraform, right? Or probably a Docker. But today you see that there are meetup groups exclusively on one certain tool, right? And they are going depth wise. They are not just going breadth, they are going depth wise. So the breadth, the depth was lacking in the past. So pretty much everybody used to tell whatever that is on the surface, right? Now, thanks to AI, if you keep telling whatever that is on the surface, people won't be interested. So you have to showcase something in a depth wise, right? So I would say meetups have evolved a lot. And apart from the technology, it's about networking. So when I do certain meetups, people keep telling me that, hey, Khaja, instead of doing it online, let's do it offline. We really love offline events. We get to meet people, we get to know each other, we get to learn a lot of things offline. And in fact, these people are the ones who actually forced me most of the times to do events offline, because I did a couple of online events and they said, hey, this is not great, Kajo. We are not able to network, right? Yeah, technology is fine. We are able to learn something new. But then that particular offline connect is missing because we are missing the networking. Yeah. So I would say meetups have evolved a lot.
Yes, Kazaz, like I agree your point. Like meeting people in person is completely different from meeting in online. So, like
Mhm.
coming back to the your question, like I really wanted to know this one. Like there are a lot of meetups around CNCF and Linux Foundation and other events. Then, what is the purpose of creating a Kubernetes or coffee meetup, and why this name? Why not tea or something else?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question, and I'm really excited about being able to answer this as well, right? So Kubernetes over coffee, I started in the month of about August or September of 2025, right? Um, until then, I was planning to do this for more than a year before I started this. So I wanted to do something, but I was like, what should I do, right? And how should I do? How should I approach a problem statement that I have? Now, the problem statement that I have here is that most of the meetups that I attend are concentrating on the breadth wise, right? Like, for example, you get to have a person come and speak for 30 minutes or 1 hour at max, right? So, very few of these meetups were concentrating on going depth, right? So, I saw an opportunity over there. And yeah, I mean, don't take me wrong. A lot of my friends are there on conducting Cloud Native Hyderabad. Atul is there. HYD Pi is done by Bhushan and Vikram, and Grafana and Friends by Satpal Bhai. And a lot of meetups that I'm involved with. And in fact, actually, I have presented at these events a few times in the past. Right. So thanks to them, that I came to know about certain platforms, how to use certain things, and I'm able to do this completely solo at this point in time. All these meetups was absolutely thanks to them, right? And what I wanted to concentrate on here with Kubernetes over coffee is absolute depth, right? So I started with behind the scenes of Kubernetes, like scheduler deep dive, common expression language, which are not so widely used terms when you come to somebody using Kubernetes or DevOps, right? So I wanted to showcase those sort of things, what happens behind the scenes, right? What is the culture of Kubernetes, how it is evolving, how it is able to scale to a level that is today, with people absolutely contributing from every continent on the earth, right, with different cultures coming from different time zones, etc., how it is able to run. So those sort of things which I wanted to say, because technology today, I would say, everyone can learn. That's not a big deal, right, given that we have chatbots and a lot of AI here. So pretty much everyone can learn, but it's about showcasing what's happening behind the scenes, right? That's the main motto. So diving deep into the things is the main motto. And that's how I came to know that when I started this, people were excited, but then they were lacking certain thing, the important thing. And one of the main ingredient was the language itself, the language of cloud native, which is mostly Golang, right? And that's how I started the series on Golang as well. So for the past 3 sessions, I'm completely focusing on Golang, giving complete, again, these sessions, again, I go depth, not, I don't just go by breadth.
Got it, Gojas. Like I'm following you since in a year. Like what are the things you're doing, and like yeah, the Golang session also you mentioned. Like how do you to get the sponsorship on the venues? Like because like, getting a venue in India is really difficult. And how you are getting this venue?
Yeah, that's always a ongoing challenge, Achanand. I have not found a solution, to be honest, with you on that ed. Just trying to see that if I can get a persistent venue. So yeah, Full Stack Academy is one that the managing director was kind enough to give space on a couple of events, and then. We had the CTO from ASBL who was very kind enough to sponsor for the first couple of events. And then I approached my own company that I work for a couple of times, and they have sponsored. So it's a constant struggle that I keep going through until the time that I find either a pool of these venues or probably some space that I can consistently use. Now, this is going to be a challenge for me, doing every weekend, because my plan with Kubernetes over coffee, because I want to cover the depth, and the depth is an ocean's depth, right? For the tooling around Kubernetes and its ecosystem, to cover that ocean's depth, I just cannot do a monthly once event, right? So I have to do this weekly. So from a technical and from a presentation perspective, I don't have that much challenge, right? Given that I constantly swim through these areas almost every single day. So being consistent on the technical side of things is not a big challenge. But when you, as you said, absolutely, it's an absolute challenge. And that's the reason why I did a couple of times online meetups, which actually I have not seen so engaging as well. Yeah, it's going to
Got
be a
it.
constant struggle. Let's see. Hopefully, we'll find some solution to this with a lot of a lot of other organizers are also part of this ecosystem.
Got it. Like why is that particular name over Kubernetes over coffee? Like whether the coffee like we can get it with K or like what is the? Are you a big fan of coffee?
No, actually, I don't drink tea, to be very honest. I drink coffee. But yeah, I mean, that's not the case, right? Actually, I thought Kubernetes, I wanted to have that term Kubernetes because that's how a lot of people get involved with, either you are in the cloud native space, DevOps, or even a developer, right? If I take any other tool, it's not that very I won't say engaging, but not certain things that a lot of people are aware of, right? Um, and then Kubernetes was very general to me, right? It came automatically because I've been involved in that ecosystem for a while. And then I was thinking that I was watching certain YouTube videos, how the namings are there, and Coffee with Current really strike me at that point in time. And I initially announced it as Kubernetes over coffee with C. And then my friend Bhushan from HYD Pi community, he said, "Hey Kajav, instead of C, can you add K, which is going to probably trending." And that instantly struck me. And yeah, I started with Kubernetes over coffee. So yeah, and the rest, as you know, is the past. What they say.
Yeah, thanks to Karan for this, like the name as well. So, like, I just wanted to mention one thing. Like, you mentioned in your meetup something around the spin operator. So, I have saw it in the meetup group. So, and then I saw the good first issues, and then I contributed to one of the GitHub issue, and still it is in the review section, and it will be merged within 1 or 2 days. Like there are two to three good first issue. Like I essentially don't know about this spin operator. So then I saw your GitHub issues and other things you mentioned in one of the meetup, I guess, the discussion. And then I went to that, and then I saw. So I continuously important things, and then I will see all the good first issues and what are the things you are discussing. So like I would like to like join over your meetup. Like I saw your agendas and other things, like whether it is in Golang or like it is in Kubernetes or anything. But yeah, so I'm just big fan of your meetups. Like because like conducting an event like with the without anyone help, it is really hard because I know what are the challenges and how people will be there, and coordination and all these things will be really difficult. So coming back to my another interesting question, like everyone says like learn Linux. Like even I got a lot of suggestion when I was starting with DevOps. So what is actually someone needs to learn in Linux, whether it is a Linux commands or like what are the things someone actually should learn in Linux?
That's a very good question, right? And as you know, pretty much everybody says learn Linux. That's very true, right? And most of the times, what people think when someone says this is that just learning about those 20 or 30 of Linux commands is what learning Linux, which is not true, right? Linux is much more beyond those commands. So, for example, today, let's say you want to understand how Docker was built, right? So it's not very different to what LFX, LXC, in- containers were there in the past. It's that Docker has built tooling around that and made it much simpler, much easier for people to understand. Now, you need to understand the nitty gritty of Linux, like what are namespaces and all those, what are system calls, how does it work, right? For example, let's say I want to write an eBPF program, and without understanding how it works, the Linux itself works today. And I'm just going there and writing a C program or a Rust program, building that and deploying it into in Linux. Probably it might work, but tomorrow imagine that certain things goes wrong. For you to be able to do thorough troubleshooting, right, you need to learn what are those system calls and all those behind the scene things about Linux. And again, it's going to be a journey, right? And you see that pretty much every tool that is built today is in and around Linux. And even you see that you never might have thought that someone from a CEO level of Azure or Microsoft would have boasted about Linux, saying that they run Linux more than their own proprietary Windows in their data centers or in their tool chain, right? So of course, Linux is becoming sort of a BAU, and probably it might look and sound as if it's a background thing which you might not need to learn, right? But then, without knowing that, you wouldn't be able to troubleshoot. However good AI might become today, right? You will always, for example, let's say if you are working on niche technologies, something that is built from the ground up, and you want to get involved into that space, right? Not knowing the closest software to the metal, the closest software to the metal that we know today is Linux, right? Of course, if you go to Raspberry Pi, it's an embedded Linux and other things. But end of the day, you have to learn Linux if you want to stay closer to the metal, and which actually excites me as well. Right, a lot of opportunities are there, at that particular layer.
Yeah, cause like most of the people, like even if you take me, also like I was just thinking Linux is just like couple of commands and we can do all these things, and we have some low level processes like the system calls you mentioned and namespaces and all these things. So and we are also using Docker like for all the containers. We are not creating the traditional way of whatever we did in the past. So, what someone should learn in Linux, like apart from this command, like because like if you give some roadmap or like what are the essential things someone should have know, like apart from these commands.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably it's a bit generic to start with, right? The generic. Imagine that you started your BTech, right? Um, Typically, what happens is that your first semester is common across all the departments, irrespective of whether you are from computer background, electrical background, or electronics background, right? You will have all those physics, probably maths, and all those generic subjects, right? And that generic level, I would say, are the commands that pretty much everybody has to learn. Everybody has to understand those commands, right? And then you branch out, similar to how you branch out in your engineering, depending upon whether you are going to electrical, you will be having electric subjects. If you're electronic, you'll have electronic subject, right? If you are into IT, mathematics, CA, and other specializations, right? So similar to how you are branching out, like for example, if you are coming into the DevOps space, right? So you need to understand what's a namespaces, what C groups, understand a little bit of in and around how system calls are made, right? And probably you might be involved with WebAssembly. At that point in time, you might need to learn a little bit more about how Linux works behind the scenes, right? And then you have a different path if you want to become a Linux system administrator, for example, right? So apart from those commands, you also need to understand how you are able to write bash scripts using these, right? And how you troubleshoot, what are the troubleshooting tools that you have, right? And you, if you are going to a security space, then you need to understand the tooling that is built around security, right? You need to understand what are the CVs that are present there today, and what are the tooling that are used, right? So it, you, as long as you branch out, you will be learning the ecosystem around that. So I won't say it's a one roadmap for everything, like most of the people would say it, because Linux is in itself is a very very big monolith, right? So learning that, for example, you might want to become a contributor of Linux itself, right? For which actually you need to have very very strong C fundamentals. So you need to understand how C works, and then you need to understand how you want to read the code, because it's millions of lines of code, right? Unlike other programming languages, for example, like Golang or Java, which have their own classes or Go files packaged properly. But in C, you will see that people write pretty much everything in one C, one big file. So it will be thousands of lines of file if you happen to see any random Linux, Linux file, linux.c or linux.h file, right? So you need to understand which areas that you want to target, which areas that you want to learn, right? Start with the very smallest if you want to contribute to Linux as well. So if you want to contribute to Linux, then the learning curve for Linux is different. So like that, I would say you start with very common, those 20 or 30 commands, and then you pave your way, start learning about namespaces, C groups, system calls, etc. Understand those fundamentals, how it works. Uh, if you want to come to the cloud native ecosystem with Kubernetes and others, if you want to become system administrator, learn a lot of bash scripting and understand how you troubleshoot things, how you have to troubleshoot things, because that is going to be your core skill, right? And if you are going to be in observability space, then you have a different way of learning things, because you might have to understand about eBPF, etc., because which is becoming a default these days, right? And if you want to go into a networking space, you need to learn the networking concepts of Linux. For example, Cilium CNI or Calico. If you go over there itself, you will be able to learn a lot of things. They have, in fact, these tools that I just mentioned. Those tooling companies themselves have given a lot of exciting information, basic fundamental information that one need to have before they start getting involved into those tools, right? So like that, I would say you need to branch out from there once you have that fundamentals about Linux.
Got it. So I agree your point. Like once you approach it, when you are comfortable with the commands, and you have to make yourself to learn all these concepts what are there in and around how these commands are running and other things. So
Yeah.
coming back to the AI thing, like you have seen a lot of. I also see your LinkedIn commands as well. Like someone mentioned, like the LinkedIn PR slot, like how someone should, like what, how open source community should approach this AI generated PRs and other things. So what is your take on those things?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I see is that there is no going back now, right? We are riding on a tiger called an AI, right? And it's not just like one or two companies who invested in this. It's that the entire world has invested in AI. For example, if you go to Y Combinator today and see the last 2 3 years of batches, so I'm talking 4 batches per year. So I'm saying the last 3 years, which are at least 10 to 12 batches that Y Combinator has sponsored, you would see that more than 90% of those companies are AI based, right? Which means that the world has completely invested itself into the AI space, right? So if there is going to be a problem with AI today, we are going to try to solve that. It's not like in the past where we will say, hey, probably it's not for this generation. Let's put it in a backlog, and then we will revisit AI again after a decade or a couple of decades, right? So you have pretty much everything today. And in fact, actually, I was reading some interesting facts, because to run a chat GPT query, it takes many times more power than a normal Google query, right? Because it has to do a lot of things behind the scenes, and for which actually electricity is the fuel today for AI, if you see. And there is this particular discussion that I saw. I don't know how much truth is there, but certain companies are trying to run this in the outer space where you wouldn't require electricity, because the sun, whatever the power that is coming from sun, can power up those grids. And again, it might look right out of a scientific science fiction movie at this point in time, right? But then nothing is impossible these days, right? As long as you can focus on that particular problem statement and work iteratively on that, right? And coming back to the interesting point that you mentioned, that certain maintainers are not happy with AI, right? Um, Eventually you have to accept the fact that people will start using AI. There is no stopping of that. But then what you also need to have uh, is tools around your open source. If you are a maintainer of a project, you need to take help of AI to review it in the first place before the core contributors or maintainers does actual review, right? So they have to do a review of the review what AI has done. um, and there, of course, there were a few open source projects that I have seen openly where they mentioned, hey, if you are using AI tools, do not contribute to our project, right? Or some projects where they have mentioned that, hey, we are not taking any PRs because the backlog of PRs is increasing a lot. And the unfortunate thing with AI today is that it generates a lot of things, right? In just one PR today, if I go to a tool like Augment Code, I can just put, hey, fix this, and I just give the link of that GitHub issue, and then it randomly does a lot of things. right? But then how can you believe it entirely? So most of the people who are trying to contribute this way, probably they might even not know the programming language that they are contributing to, the tool that they are trying to contribute to. Right now, that's the biggest problem. So certain things, for example, let's say a certain tool has, or a certain open source project has done certain thing as a design choice, right? Now the AI might think that that design choice is a wrong, but whereas that particular open source tool, when they were building, they have taken actively that as an AI choice, right? So it's very interesting that how AI can think that design choice as an actual design choice and not right, not wrong, right? So AI still has a lot of path to travel, a long time, I would say, that AI will become sort of whatever that we have been calling as an AGI or super AGI or things of that kind, right? So yeah, so it's an interesting space.
Yes, Kaza, like I agree your point completely. Like a lot of AI generated slop and other PRs as yeah. So what are the AI tools are you using in your day-to-day life, and what and which AI tool which fascinated you in the recent days?
The AI tools I would say that I'm excited about is the design tools, because I'm pretty bad at that. If you see about a year back, the images that I used to post on LinkedIn and what I'm posting today, you would say that, hey, either Khaja has learned the designing prop a lot, or probably he's using AI, and it's about the second thing, right? So I am very bad. I don't have even the dresses that I wear. You will see that, hey, he's wearing some color that doesn't match the pant color. There's some shirt, right? I'm that bad at those sort of things. So AI really, really helps me when it comes to the designs, right? And user interfaces. I never thought that AI will evolve in a way that it will create stunning websites, which is being done today, right? So you write a workflow in a tool like ni10, and then you just go and sleep, and by the time that you wake up, you will probably have a full blown SaaS, right? Of course, people need to be very careful what AI gives you. Accidental, you don't want to have your keys being publicly published, which unfortunately you'll see in a lot of AI based tools that are happening these days, right? So, and then I started when ChatGPT was, I think, about 3.0 plus version, and I have seen its growth today. We have come a lot far distance today, Achanand, before when it was 3.0 plus version, right? So it evolved a lot. It evolved a lot. I mean, even today, when I go from my home to office, or I go anywhere, what I do is that I use something like a notebook LM from Google, right? So if I want to watch any video or watch any learn any article, I just feed to that notebook LM, and then it converts something like a podcast, an audio. Summary that it gives, and then I watch it, I listen as I drive, as a podcast, right? Now I'm able to utilize my time over while I'm driving as well, or if I go for a jogging, or if I go for anywhere outside, and if I sit at any cafe, I just listen to that podcast. Once it's been converted from a normal video to, or an article to podcast, it becomes very easy to to grab that content, right? So these are some of the tools that I would say I'm super excited about at this point in time.
Really interesting, Kaja. You mentioned a lot of things, like even with the design also, like everyone, like even if you take a coding burn or like a programmer, you're not like good in the designing space, right? So it is not our uh like what I can say, like which we
Cup of
used to do daily. But yeah, so AI is really helping in all the posters. Even the poster which I created for this podcast is also generated by an AI. I just
Yeah.
give the same design for every podcast, and it will be able to create the same design for all these things. So coming back to the coding part, so what is your favorite AI tools around the coding space? Like we have Cloud Code, Codex, and other Copilot. So what is your favorite tools around coding?
So right now I'm using two tools. One is Perplexity for my day-to-day interactions. I use ChatGPT's voice when I'm outside or when I just require some things. Right. I would say about a couple of years back, I used to use Google for that. So I don't know when was the last time I used Google. Because right now, if I want anything, I just ask ChatGPT voice command saying that, hey, I need this. Can you give me this information? Right. Um, from day to day act perspective, those are the two tools that I very actively use. And then I shifted to anti gravity about a couple of months back. Before that, I used to use Visual Studio Code, the actual Visual Studio Code editor, with a couple of plugins, a client and other tools, right? But then anti-gravity has made life very easy, because with one subscription now you get an ecosystem from Google, right? So all the images that you see that I'm creating today is based out of Gemini's Nano Banana, right? And all the slides that I present today are from Google Drive docs, right? So AI is present over there as well. And yeah, and most of the code that I write today is anti-gravity. In anti-gravity, it really helps speed things up. Without that, it feels like probably I might not be able to go back to where I started my career without these tools.
Got it, Kaza. Like someone who started without all the AI tools, roaming around with the Stack Overflow, and if you give us someone tool like this anti gravity, and yeah, so I feel your way of things. So like last two questions, like you have a lot of things you are doing. You are also going for an office, and you have a separate community, and you have also family also. Like how you make yourself your time, like how do you find your time for all doing all these things, and how you are so energetic for this kind of activities?
No, actually, first thing that I have to say is that my family is super supportive, without whom I would never ever be able to do anything closer to what I am doing today. Right. So they are really appreciative of what I do. They really support. And one thing that I would suggest for people, to get into this is that if you want to get into things and your family is a little hesitant, then bring your family also into the technical space, right? Give them a chat GPT, give them certain tools that they can start using it, and then they understand, start getting them involved, attending some of the meetups around in your areas, right? That way they would be able to network with people, and they will be able to talk. And that's how I started involving my family as well.
Yeah, I
My
saw your daughter also talking
Yeah.
about his BPF.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that gives your that helps your family also to stay sane in this insane world of technology, right? Where everything changes pretty much every day or the other day, right? So for me, it's always family first, right? I absolutely want to ensure that my family is given the utmost importance, and that's how I'm able to do things today. And I spend at least 2 to 3 hours every day learning new things, and what I have to present for the upcoming meetup. So I spend about 8 to 10 hours a week on the meetup session that I have to give, right? So which helps me also to stay up to date with the technology that is happening in and around, and then I tend to meet a lot of people in this space. That also helps me to understand where the technology is going. You see certain things that are used today. You see certain things that are being developed, but then you don't see most of them being used in the enterprise level, right? So there used to be that barrier in the past where enterprise used to feel uh, apprehensive about a certain technology because before they bring in, they want to evaluate it, they want to see the success of it, they want to see that particular product being stabilized. And I see that these open source tools started evolving in that direction, right? For example, Grafana, about let's say a decade back, if I have to use that in an enterprise, probably I might have to go through a lot of hops, right? And to bring that, probably it would have taken me, just doing a POC, it might have taken me 6 months to a year. But now Grafana Labs, they have an enterprise edition also, right? So which makes life easier for us to get these things, right? So those sort of things is what actually I learned from the community. And to be very honest, I don't spend a lot of time over there, because if you want to learn pretty much everything by yourself, that's where you can't scale it. But if you feed off from your network that you have grown in and grown with, then you would be able to horizontally scale your learning curve as well, right? So yeah, that's how I spend my time. I learn things, and I try to be stable or else in this insane sort of things.
Got it, Kaja. Like really inspiring one. So, like, and a final question, like, what is your advice for someone who's starting their career in like DevOps or in IT? Because like provided with all these IT like the AI tools, so how did you like give an advice for someone who's starting their IT career? Because we never seen like writing code by ourselves, like what you guys did in the past, like the way of experience, like you have a mix of experience as well with AI, without AI you have but the Gen Z kids like us, we are just seeing the wave, like the fancy stuff, I would say. How did you give an advice for someone like us, like for Gen Z people?
Yeah, one thing that I keep seeing, Achanand, is that I go to a lot of colleges, right? And when I speak to a lot of these students, there is a mix of thoughts, how they are using, what they are using, how they see their career, etc. Right? While on one side, I'm super happy that they use these tools to start building their own apps, and they start some of them start thinking as an entrepreneur, right? So I would say that AI will bring a lot of entrepreneurs, that which was not possible in the past, right? um, what I would also see is that the roles what we used to call as developers, right now, that particular word will vanish very soon, because we are not going to write code by hand any anymore going forward, however small or big company that you might take today, right? So enterprises, they are leaning on Gemini or chat or GitHub Copilot, etc., right? Because now those tools have enterprise level support. And if you take startups, probably you will see that they use Perplexity or similar kind of tools, where actually they are budget friendly, right? So which means that eventually you will see that the role of a developer will evolve from just being developer to become a subject matter expert, and someone who is able to read a lot. So I would say your role will become reading a lot. Instead of writing, you will start reading a lot, right? For example, whatever that AI has generated, you should be able to read it. You should be able to understand what it is generating, right? Until unless you are a subject matter expertise, you are able to write specs for that, right? Now, spec is a new prompt these days, if you see, right? The best way that you give the prompt is the best spec that you can provide to that particular tool, right? And to be able to write a proper spec, you again need to be a subject matter expertise in that area, right? For example, let's say I want to develop some e-commerce new tool. If I do not have exposure and if I don't have experience in that area, then I will never be able to create certain thing in its fulfillment, right? There will always be gaps. And for example, if I am on the security side of things, I need to have those fundamentals of security to see whatever that AI is providing. It's not bringing certain CVs along with it. It's not bringing older tools, because even today you see that certain output that these chatbots provide, they use older libraries, they use older versions of frameworks, right? You still need to have those things, right? It's going to be a blend of um, things that you need to have under your belt. And students especially have a greater opportunity today to start contributing to open source, right? So while on one way they can become a subject matter expertise today, right within college, is by being involved with open source. So they have to pick certain open source projects, open source tools, and start getting involved. And while they are still in their college, they should be able to learn all these programming languages, the SDLC process, etc. Because companies today, by the time they graduate and come out, expect that they are already subject matter expertise in certain areas, right? They should be able to, what the coding is gone these days, right? So nobody would say that, hey, how many lead code problems are you able to solve? Nobody's talking those these days. If you have seen, there is a huge shift in that. It doesn't mean that you should not be doing those things. You should still do that, right? Because for example, an output that a certain tool has given, you still need to know whether it has resolved in O of n time or O of 1 time. You still have to know that. And that comes by still solving these problems and still being able to learn. But then you, as a student, you have opportunity to start right from the first year of your college, right, in of your bachelor. And that's the reason why when I go to any college, I tell the faculty that I would like to talk exclusively with first and second year students, right? Because they have enough time to travel with an open source project, right? Because most of the times people think that open source is a shortcut to a job, that they can contribute to some 2 or 3 PRs and then they should be able to get job. Right now, I just want to break that myth and explain these things to students, that it's not just about writing code. But for example, Kubernetes, I keep saying that it's not about just writing code to Kubernetes. If Kubernetes was just about writing code, there are thousands of other open source projects, right, which are probably a little better, even better than Kubernetes, but never came to limelight, right? It's right because it's not just about code, it's about the ecosystem, it's about the people who are involved in that, the processes that are put in place, etc. Right? So students have an enormous opportunity today to get involved into behind the scenes of these open source projects for free, right? Unlike in the past, if I have to do certain thing on my own, probably I have to set up my own home lab, and pretty much everything I have to pay for, right? But today, students can start from absolutely scratch and they would be able to learn these things and become subject matter expertise by the time they come out of college, where they will then see that there are whatever the opportunities outside there, it makes meaningful sense to them, right? Or else today, the opportunities outside there, I would say more than 95% of the students, unfortunately, do not meet those prerequisites, right? So yeah, that's my suggestion to students, that start your career as early as possible.
Yes, got it. Your point completely. It's like subject matter expert in the AI space is really important, and like you also mentioned in your some of the LinkedIn posts, like reading a code is so important than writing a code and all these things. So yeah, So thanks a lot, Akaja, for your time on this Republic Day and spending yeah really a 1 hour time with us. So it will really help all the people and a lot of things. Really, thanks for your time, Kaja. Yeah,
Yeah, appreciate lot of time that you have taken, Chand. I really enjoyed this hours of talk. Thanks for inviting me.
thanks, Kaja, for spending your time with us. Yeah, we'll see you in upcoming Hyderabad meetups and hope you to see in your KubeCon as well as a speaker.
Yeah, looking forward, Achanan. Have a great day.
Yeah, great. And bye.
Bye.